Hello again and welcome to video 3 in the National Plant Monitoring Scheme website instructional videos series. This one is quite a short one. I'm just going to very briefly overview the expert mode for creating plots, which I mentioned in the second video on general plot creation. So here I'm already logged into the website and as per the last video I will go to the create plots and enter data option, and then the view squares and create plots option in the drop down menu. So if I click on that, it will take me to my squares and plots page, which will then just take a moment to load. If you watched the second video on generally creating plots, you'll remember that we have a list of the squares that are currently assigned to my account, and for that square that I surveyed previously, I have some plots which I've already created and already entered data against. But for this video I'm going to focus on adding new plots as per the second video in the series. So I'm going to focus on this square because it's one that's been allocated to me and that's been approved, so I can create plots against it. So I just need to select this add plot option here as previously. So I'll just click that, and this time I'm going to select the square plot option again, but I'm going to tick the expert mode option. Now, as I mentioned previously, there aren't too many extra options enabled when you use expert mode, but there are a couple of significant things, particularly for creating linear plots, which I'll come on to in a moment. But firstly, for square plots, the differences are fairly minor. So if I select expert mode, and if I scroll down to the map again here, and if I just go through the process that I went through previously of changing the map backdrop by changing it to hybrid mode, and then just zooming in to the same type of area that I looked at before, again I'll just minimize that little option there. And you remember that in the top right hand corner I need to select the double-headed arrow in order to drag the map around. So I'm going to do that and go into the same area that I was in the second video. Zoom in as much as possible, go to this area of grassland here, this one here. So now I want to create the plot, and it's exactly the same as before in that I need to make sure that the plot option is selected in the top right hand corner. So I click the icon with the box and the little mouse pointer, which is required if you want to create a plot on the map. So now if I click where I want to create the plot, and you remember that it will center the map on that location, so I'll jump slightly. So if I click here, you see it's jumped to center that plot, and it's given me a couple of extra options now in the form of these circles. So as before, it's put the grid reference in there, and again make sure that that seems relatively accurate based on perhaps GPS or your phone that you used in the field, or perhaps an estimation from an OS map. Remember again that this is divided into an easting and northing, so if you've only got information up to 100 meters from your OS map, you just want to check that these 3 digits here for the northing and the easting are correct. But hopefully you'll be able to use information on the satellite map to ensure that it's in the right place. So really for the square plots, the only difference from expert mode is you have these 2 circles, and all that means is that for the central circle you can click and hold and move the plot around, whereas previously you had to click on a new location, and this can be useful for kind of fine adjustment. And you'll see that that grid reference there changed as well when it was released and updated, so that live updates. And this second circle here, again if you hold with your left mouse button and drag, that just adjusts the angling of the plot. So it's just a kind of trying to get the position as accurate as possible. Also, the square should be scaled towards the size of as the size of the plot should be. So if I went up and changed this now to a 10 by 10 meters plot, if I do that, the plot on the map will probably disappear. Yes, so I need to place it again. If I click, and you'll see now it's a bit bigger, so it's just supposed to be scaled accurately. So those are really the only 2 additional options when you're in expert mode for square plots. For linear plots, it's a tiny bit more involved. So if I change this now to linear plot, and expert mode is still selected, and this time I'm going to create a plot along the edge of the river there. So I'm going to zoom out slightly and then go back to this, you'll notice now that I've got an extra option here, this middle option, for drawing lines, which I'll come to in a moment. But firstly, I'm going to use a double-headed arrow just to drag the map around, because I want to focus on the stretch of river here perhaps. So I'm going to zoom in again and then just recenter that. Now, in expert mode for linear plots, there are two parts to the plot creation. Firstly, we do the same as before. We select this general plot creation option here, and we click to position the center of the linear plot, and that will be the grid reference that comes up here, automatically generated. Once we've done that, and we've got the center point, more or less, as we think it is, don't forget that you can also enter the two ends of the plot that you captured in the field manually here by typing them in. You either, again, use your phone or GPS or OS map to create, but by clicking somewhere centrally here, you can create that grid reference. Then we can select this new tool, the linear plot creation tool, and selecting that, you'll notice it doesn't change the grid reference, it doesn't get rid of that central point, but what it does allow is for us to draw a line representing the linear plot. So start from either end of the plot by clicking, so just click once, and you basically just click every time you want a vertice on your line. So if you did go around a corner, you could do that, and then when you finished, you just double click. So that now has created, we've got a grid reference for what would be hopefully the center point. Obviously I've gone on a bit further here to demonstrate doing corners, but hopefully that would be the center, and then you would create the plot like that. If you've gone wrong, just start again, click somewhere else. Obviously this is away from the grid reference, but this is just to show you that you can draw another line and double click, and then it will come up with this message saying, would you like to replace the existing line here with the new one? OK, and then it obviously moves it. If you felt that the grid reference was wrong, then obviously you would go to the top right hand corner of the map and select this square box, and then you could place the grid reference tool somewhere new, and that would obviously move the map, create a new grid reference. Let's go back to where we were. So that would change the grid reference there. So then again, if we wanted to change that line now, we would just go back into the line tool and then start again as before, and then double click to finish, and then OK, yes, I would like to replace the existing boundary with the new one. And that's basically it. That plot is now created, and then if I submit that as before, we'll go back to the squares and plots page, and it will refresh, and that new plot should appear now listed underneath the relevant square, and it's listed as a linear plot there. Again, we didn't put in a new plot number, so that's blank, but we should have done that really. And then if I go back in and edit it, it should have retained that information about expert mode, and it's defaulted to the base map, but it's got the linear plot and that central grid reference point there together. So that's essentially the expert mode for linear plots and also the square plots.